Hello and thank you for viewing this video in which I will be talking about the heavy support choices from the Ork's 7th Edition Codex as part 6 in my series of reviews. My name is Steve, this is the SDFnet 40k channel, and let us begin. First up, as you may have deduced from the images on screen, we have mech guns. The roar of mech guns has heralded the end for many a hapless foe, spitting out blasts of crackling energy, swatting planes out of the air or crushing their victims in crackling fists of bright green force. These big clanky field guns have enough dakka to stomp even the toughest targets. Of course, as no self-respecting orc would be left behind when there's fighting in the offing, crewing the guns is left to the long-suffering grots. The orcs drag the mech guns into battle behind speeding wagons or trucks before abandoning them in a heap, leaving the grots to sort them out. Though capable of blasting a tank in half or sliding down enemy infantry, these weapons are just as likely to explosively backfire. The biggest hazard for enemies facing mech guns is that, until they start firing, no one is really sure what they're going to do. Mech guns are artillery units that come in a squad composition of 1 gun and 2 Gretchen crew for a base 18 points. You may take an additional 4 guns and crews for 18 points each. The stat line of the gun is the standard artillery profile, and Gretchen is as we've seen it before. However, in the spirit of a full review, the mech gun itself doesn't have any weapon skill, ballistic skill, or strength. It is toughness 7, has 2 wounds, a 3-up save, and no initiative attacks or leadership. The Gretchen crewing have weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 3, strength 2, toughness 2, 1 wound, 2 initiative, 1 attack, and 5 leadership. The Gretchen comes armed with a close combat weapon, and the default loadout for the artillery is a cannon, which has 2 firing modes. Both are 36-inch range. Frag is strength 4, AP 5, heavy 1 blast, and shell is strength 8, AP 3, heavy 1. Each mech gun can include up to 2 additional Gretchen at 3 points a model, and 1 ammo runt at 3 points a model. Any mech gun may replace its cannon with either a lobber for free, giving 48-inch range, strength 5, AP 5, heavy 1, a zap gun for 5 points, giving 36-inch range, strength 2d6, AP 2, heavy 1, gets hot, and the zap rule. The zap rule states that when you roll for the weapon strength, if you roll 10 or above, the shot is resolved at strength 10, and suffers a Get Hot result on 1, 2, or 3. Any Get Hot wounds are resolved against the Gretchen crew. Finally, zap guns automatically cause a crew shaken result in addition to any other effects when they score a glancing or penetrating hit. Other weapon options include a bubble chucker for 12 points a model, which is 36-inch range, strength D6, AP D6, heavy 1, large blast. We have a custom mega cannon for 12 points, which has 36-inch range, strength 8, AP 2, assault 1, gets hot, a smasher cannon for 12 points, 36-inch range, strength D6 plus 4, AP 1, heavy 1, and finally a traxor cannon, which is again 12 points, 36-inch range, strength 8, AP 3, heavy 1, skyfire with the tractor rule. This rule states that this weapon automatically causes an immobilized result in addition to any other effects when it scores a glancing or penetrating hit against the zooming flyers. If a swooping monstrous creature suffers 1 or more wounds from this weapon, it suffers a -3 penalty to the grounding test for that turn. So these things are amazing. I mean, they really are. Firstly, they're artillery, so shooting attacks against them are resolved against the profile of the gun, being toughness 7, meaning shots against the Gretchen crews are resolved at, well, toughness 7. So that's awesome. They cost next to nothing and you can take 5 in a squad. Not like, for example, Eldar Vol's Wrath platforms that have a maximum of 3. They use Gretchen ballistic skill of 3, which makes them at least as good as anything you'll see from Guard. You can be festooned with extra grots, adding extra bodies to kill and ammo runs for twin linking your shots. The only downside is the range of some of the weapons. and that they are in competition with so many other things in the heavy support slot. These really are some of the best shooting you have in your army, and they'll be a nightmare to shift off the board because of their toughness. I have 5 models, and I've been known to take them in either a squad of 5 or a 3 and a 2. The 2 will be tractor guns for AA, and 3 will be whatever really takes my fancy. The only weakness I can see is their susceptibility to melee, as those hits will be made against the Gretchen crew, and once the crew is gone, so too is the platform. So many choices of guns. Where do we start? Okay, the base loadout of a cannon. It's a fair choice. It has 2 fire modes, basically the equivalent of an Astartes missile launcher, just a bit shorter range. Nothing really bad to say about it. Definite safe bet, and it can work against virtually all targets. Now about the lobber. It's better range than the cannon. It's basically a good anti-infantry gun. Strength 5 is good enough to use against most infantry. The AP is a bit weak, but the blast will help, and multiplied by the number of guns you're allowed to take is good potential damage. The barrage rule also opens up the option to be safely tucked away if you're concerned about them being popped. Next, the zap gun is more in the realms of Orky randomness. 36-inch range with random strength. The static AP2 makes it a viable threat to most things. The possibility of 5 strength 10 AP2 shots will be enough to make anyone want to stay out of the way of these guys. There are better options for guns in my view, but these can be fun if you really want to get a powerful shot. Plus, the zap rule has potential. Next up, the bubble chucker. So, the zap gun has variable strength but fixed AP. The ability to roll really high and be really devastating is there, but the bubble chucker takes what competitive players really hate, randomness and unreliability, and cranks it up to 11. You could get lucky and have strength 6 AP1, but they aren't good odds. Long story short, I would probably skip this. Next up, the custom mega cannon. Did someone say plasma cannon? Good strength and AP for use against any targets. Be sure to take some extra grods to tank those get hot rolls. The penultimate choice is a smasher cannon. A tad random, however much less so than the zap gun, and equal potential for devastation, but without the drawback of potentially killing your own crews. I like these, and when the points allow me to field them, I take these instead of the base cannons. Finally, saving the best till last, we have the tractor cannon, which is a strong contender for the best anti-aircraft weapon in the game. High enough strength that it will annihilate any flyer you point it at. Even knowing these are sitting in the middle of the board will make any commander who values their flyer and its potential passengers think twice about getting in range. Next up, the battle wagon. Ork battle wagons rumble to war on a collection of tracks, tyres and massively spiked rollers. Whether lumbering gun fortresses, bright red speedsters or gaudy rust buckets smeared with Ork glyphs, battle wagons are massive slabs of motorised junk built to carry big mobs of greenskins into battle. No matter each battle wagon's individual peculiarities, all fulfill the essential role of an armoured attack vehicle. A solid wedge of these mighty tanks can provide a warband with a somewhat rusty mailed fist that can be jammed right down the throat of the enemy army. With guns booming and death rollers coated with mud and gore, Ork battle wagons carve a path of bloody ruin through the foe, while their Ork passengers blaze away at the dazed survivors and bellow "Waaagh" at the top of their lungs. 110 points. You get an open-top transport capable of carrying 20 models, or 12 if you take the kill cannon upgrade, and they have the profile of ballistic skill 2, front armor 14, side 12, rear 10, with 4 hull points. You can buy an optional ARD case for 15 points, turning it from open-topped and giving you 5 fire points, 2 on either side of the hull and 1 at the rear. If you take this upgrade, you also have 3 access points that are again on either side and at the rear. Upgrade-wise, it may take the previously mentioned kill cannon for 30 points, which has the profile of 24 inches, strength 7, AP 3, ordnance 1, large blast. Additionally, for 10 points, you may take either a cannon, lobber or zap gun, Well, we've just spoken about these, so I won't repeat myself and waste your time. For 5 points each, you can upgrade with up to 4 big shooters or rocket launchers, and in any combination. Finally, it can draw from the base vehicle equipment list and take a death roller for 10 points. The art case I mentioned is 15 points, and a grabbing claw is 5 points. Battle wagons are as iconic to orcs as boys themselves. They serve the purpose of being a heavy transport, but also a gun platform. Orcs do tend to favour walkers in varying sizes, but the mobility of a battle wagon and the number of guns you can duct tape to it leads to the potential for some quite heavy firepower. Unfortunately, there's not too much more I have to say about these. When I bring them, they fill the role of a heavy dedicated transport rather than a heavy tank role, mainly because there are better things these days to put in heavy support, and the battle wagon, for the types of troops who you'd want to protect with such a vehicle, such as knobs or mega knobs, can take these as a dedicated transport, keeping your heavy support slots free. I'd love to say more about these. They're okay, and they used to be a lot better, but they serve the purpose and they can be reasonably cheap bare bones compared to other armies. Or you can fit them out with all the whistles and bells and drive up their cost way too much, but I personally wouldn't. The shooting will unlikely see a return on investment, and because it's a tank, you'll just get popped like a balloon by some scrub melee unit. Take them, sure, just keep them out of a heavy support. And now, the Death Dread. Death Dreads are clanking monstrosities that behave in battle much like enormous metal orcs. They clank towards the foe, waving piston-driven arms that end in saws, claws, and really big guns. Lurch along as fast as their hydraulic legs will carry them. Their bellows of Waaagh echo from inbuilt speakers at ear-splitting volume. Though all this is hugely entertaining for the orcs fighting alongside the Death Dread, for the enemies it is utterly terrifying. Death Dreads epitomise the unstoppable ferocity of the greenskin race, and the damage they can do is just jaw-dropping. The brutal implementation, surgery, and subsequent claustrophobia tends to drive Death Dread pilots a bit bonkers. They will take any opportunity to vent their frustrations violently upon their foe, if only to make themselves feel better about having to eat through a straw. Death Dreads are walker vehicles that cost 80 points and can be fielded in units of 1. They come with 2 big shooters and 2 power claws, and sports the profile, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength 5, front armor and side armor 12, rear armor 10, initiative 2, 3 attacks, and 3 hull points. Options-wise, your Death Dread may replace either of its big shooters with rocket launchers for free, custom mega blasters or scorchers for 5 points each, or power claws for 10 points each. It may take either grot riggers or extra armor for 10 points. This model makes me happy. I don't care if it's good, it's so orky. A melee-focused walker, while it has shooting options, it's not very good at it. I would suggest scorchers would be a good option, as they will be able to roast any troops they come across and give some overwatch, which might mitigate some power fists coming at you and ruining your fun. Where these guys really shine is their melee power, however. Base, they come with a set of power claws, negating the specialist weapon restriction. Take a second pair and you will dish out 6 strength 10 AP2 hits around. Plenty enough to mince through virtually any target. Being a walker, you're safe from getting gimped on the rear armor by some scrub squad. However, you are also limited on mobility compared to a tank. Unlike Imperial Dreads, you can only field these bad boys singly, and if you get an unfortunate immobilization, if you did take that killer melee build, you will end up being a very expensive statue that all the Tal children will come and point and laugh at. If you have a mech around, probably couldn't hurt to keep him near your dreads. Because of the buff the Death Dread gives killer cans, it might not also hurt to keep a screen of them in front of him until it's go time. Grot cans are a lot cheaper than this guy, and will want to be near him, so use them. As I just mentioned them, now let's talk about killer cans. Killer cans bear similarities to Death Dreads, with their snipping claws, chugging heavy weapons, and lumpy metal hulls. Yet, in place of an enraged orc, killicans are piloted by cackling grots. Though individually smaller than a Death Dread, killicans charge towards the enemy lines in jostling mobs of riveted iron and roaring saw blades. The killicans' grot pilots put their relative skill with firearms to good use, blowing the zog out of anything unlucky enough to cross their path. Despite being hardwired into a 10-foot tall killing machine, killican pilots still retain a good degree of grit and cowardice. As a result, they still believe in safety in numbers, and have a bad habit of losing their nerve under fire. It is not unheard of for killicans to waddle about in circles or freeze up entirely at the first sign of danger. Killicans come with a base unit composition of 1 walker for 50 points, which gives you the profile Weapon Skill 2, Ballistic Skill 3, Strength 5, Front and Side Armor of 11, and Rear 10, 2 Initiative, 2 Attacks, and 2 Hull points. You may take up to 5 extra models for an additional 50 points each. Their stock equipment is a big shooter and a can claw, and they are subject to the Cowardly Grots rule, which means that if a unit of killicans suffers 25% or more casualties during any one phase, the unit must roll a d6 at the end of that phase. Add +1 to the dice roll if there are 3 or more killicans in a unit, and a further +1 if there is 1 or more Death Dreads within 6 inches of the unit. On a result of 3+, the test is passed and nothing happens. The result of 1 to 2, the test is failed and every model in the unit immediately suffers a crew shaken result, but no hull points are taken as a result of this test. Wargear wise, you can replace your big shooter with a rocket launcher for free, or a Scorcher or custom Mega Blaster or a Grotzuka, which is 18-inch Strength 6 AP5 Heavy 2 Blast, for 5 points each. Additionally, you can take Grotriggers for 5 points or extra armor for 10 points. I think these guys are actually pretty good. To me, they have that Orky feel, are fairly durable, and can actually shoot reasonably well. Where points allow, I like to take a squad of 6, all armed with Grotzukas, giving me 12 Strength 6 shots per turn. I try to keep them as a screening unit for my Death Dread as I mentioned. Plus, in this combo, the Cowardly Grots rule is further mitigated. My favoured armament is the Grotzuka as mentioned, though it does have limited range, so you could alternatively use them for melee, where they will be Strength 10 AP2 with 3 attacks on the charge, and immune to most baseline melee in return. Multiply that by 6 cans, and you've got yourself a world of hurt. If points don't allow, smaller squads might still work, but you would suffer to Cowardly Grots a lot more, and you may not carry enough Daka or Punch to get a squad kill in a turn. You can inflict some damage though. I think, as with most things Orky, really go big or go home. Caution and reason is for Hoomies and pansy pointy ears. And now the Gorkanaut. A Gorkanaut is everything an orc aspires to be. Massive, tough, loud and destructive. Its blocky silhouette looms menacingly over friend and foe alike. From its hulking orcoid shape and to the brutal weapons it wields, a Gorkanaut epitomizes the unsubtle brutality of Gork and his no-nonsense way of war. Every Gorkanaut is essentially a massive, overbuilt, armoured warsuit, bristling with Daka and packing an armoured claw the size of a killer can. They are ideal for a lone knob who wants to make a name for himself, serving as weapon, transport, and, rather cramped and smelly, home all in one. Gorkanauts have become especially popular in recent years as more greenskins are seized by visions of the Great Waaagh and find themselves compelled to pilot these mighty engines into battle, trampling their panicked foes as they go. Now, the Gorkanaut will cost you 245 points for a walker vehicle with a transport capacity of 6, with no fire points and 1 access point at the front. It has the profile Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 2, Strength 8, Front and Side Armors of 13, Rear 12, 2 Initiative, 4 Attacks and 5 Hull Points. It comes armed with a Deathstorm Mega Shooter, which is 36-inch range, Strength 5, AP 5, heavy 3d6, 2 twin-linked big shooters, 2 rocket launchers, a scorcher, and a claw of Gork, or possibly Mork. A Gorkanaut may take heavy armor for 10 points and Grotriggers for 20 points, and has the Rampage rule. Okay, I'll say this right off the bat. As a transport, I don't rate these models. No fire points and not an assault vehicle just doesn't suit Orky playstyle as I see it, and the fact you can only take 6 models further limits its usefulness. The only time I could see the transport capacity being useful is to hide an HQ in there. Either a mech embarked and repairing, hiding to avoid giving up a warlord kill, or perhaps as a cocoon for your war boss turn 1. As I've covered, your war boss is going to be the prime target for your enemy to stop you calling your Waaagh, so keeping him safe but still advancing could be useful. If your war boss isn't in a battle wagon, I mean. If you get a mech and have the points, give him a custom force field, thus giving your Gorkanaut an invuln save similar to that of the Morkanaut, which I'll be coming to shortly. Good stuff. As for the unit itself, well, the armor profile is pretty good, and it has a healthy number of hull points to boot. Being a walker, it's not going to get mushed in melee, and 12 on the rear means it's going to take more than bolter fire to kill one of these. In melee, it's going to kill anything it hits. However, if you throw some Fearless Gauntlet or something, it's going to be prime to be tar pitted. That said, the Rampage rule will help in clearing out those extra few suicide scrubs. Dakka-wise, it's no slouch. In typical Orc manner, trading quality for quantity, your Scorcher will provide Wall of Flame Overwatch, which might take out a pesky Power Fist on the way into melee. Other than that, the simple shower of bullets this thing throws out is just fun. I will close this entry in review by pointing out how hysterically overarmed this is. Being a walker, it can only fire 2 of its 6 shooting weapons per turn. The Flamer is only really there as an overwatch tool, which it is welcome for, but otherwise most of the weapons are there purely to mitigate you losing your Deathstorm Mega Shooter or Claw to a weapon destroyed result. Now let's have a word about Morkanauts. Where Gorkanauts epitomise the unsubtle brutality of the almighty Gork, a Morkanaut displays the lethal cunning but equal almighty Mork. Every Morkanaut is personally built and piloted by a skilled mech boy, and packs a wild array of energy weapons and glowing gubbins from the mech's own workshop. Morkanaut pilots, like their Gorkanaut equivalents, are usually outcasts. Some feel the call of the Great Waaagh and set out to cause carnage in the name of Mork, while others hunt, like rather violent, magpies for the technological secrets of other races. A rare few, known as bad mechs, will be ejected forcibly from their tribe for crimes such as using the local Weird Boy Tower for target practice. These rogue pilots are especially dangerous and will often begin their wanderings by flattening the former tribe's settlement with their Morkanaut guns. A Morkanaut costs 230 points, and really is simply a Gorkanaut with different weapons, so see that listing for the basic details. The differences between the two are the Morkanaut doesn't have the Rampage rule, and can take a custom force field for 50 points. It comes armed with 2 twin-linked big shooters, a custom Mega Blaster, 2 rocket launchers, a gift of Gork, or possibly Mork, and a custom Mega Cannon, which is 36-inch range, strength 8, AP2, heavy 1, blast, and gets hot. So a lot of what I said about the Gorkanaut also applies to the Morkanaut. The differences between the two is this version has access to a custom force field without the need to take a mech. This also has the advantage that the bubble extends 6 inches from the hull, which could provide some cover to your advancing troops, both in the bubble or just hiding behind the Morkanaut itself. Or you could give your Death Dread some save whilst he makes his way to emulsify something in melee. Gun-wise, well, it's simply a different proposition. Higher weapon strength and a healthy AP means you can take a pop at most things you'll meet on the board. However, only one shot with Ork ballistic skill means you're not going to be hitting a target that often. Plus, Gets Hot might mean that you're going to be needing that mech that I discounted earlier. If not a mech, always take Rotriggers. Again, the disdain the dice gods hold for me means I could spend 3 turns shooting, miss every time, and get hot myself to death. Orky, but embarrassing. The penultimate item in heavy support are looters. Toting massive death guns that fill the air with a rain of offshots, rockets, and energy blasts, loot mobs provide a warband with much needed and extremely heavy cover fire. When a mob of looters cuts loose, the overwhelming storm of Dakar they create churns infantry into blood-soaked pulp, whilst tanks shudder and clang, their crews and systems perforated until the vehicles shudder to a halt, leaking oil and gore. Looters tend to be about the heaviest armed orcs going, largely due to their natural flair for larceny, cons, and general light-fingeredness and thievery. They often befriend mechs, trading their ill-gotten gains for ever more custom Dakar. Many mech boys cannot resist tinkering with the death guns' worky bits, even as the looters begin firing them, preventing messy mishaps and ensuring that they perform to their full, devastating potential. A squad of looters includes 5 boys who are armed with a death gun, which is 48-inch, strength 7 AP4, heavy D3, and stick bombs for 70 points. Up to 3 boys may be upgraded to mechs, replacing their death gun with mechs tools, a slugger and a chopper. They have the usual Orky profiles of a looter and a mech, both being weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength 3, toughness 4, 1 wound, 2 initiative, 2 attacks, leadership 7, and a 6-up save. If a mech upgrade is taken, you get the usual character rules for when it matters, and the squad is subject to Here We Go, Furious Charge, and Mob rule. You may purchase up to 14 additional looters for 14 points a model, and any mech may take a Grot Oiler for 5 points or a Kill Saw for 20, or any items from the mech weapon list, and the squad can take a truck as dedicated transport. Formerly a popular elite's choice, looters made their way to heavy support in this edition of the Codex. These guys are essentially armed with shorter range autocannons, and for the points to potential visits from the pain train potential of these, they are astounding value too. Best case is 15 strength 7 AP4 shots for 70 points. Take 12, take 15. The random fire profile plus Ork ballistic skill will hurt your carnage output per second, but that's true of everything shooty for orcs. Always bigger is better, so take as many as your points allow. I really don't have too much more to say on these guys. Take as many as you can, put them in cover. Even better, get a looted Aegis defense line and provide some Dakar support for your boys. The Aegis also has the advantage that if you go to ground to get the super save buff, it really doesn't hurt orcs that much, unlike it would, say, a Space Marine. And finally, for this review of the heavy support section, we have Flash Gits. The gun-crazed show-offs known as Flash Gits are skilled at breaking heads up close or blasting their enemies into tiny glowing bits with equal style. Amongst the richest and obnoxious of their warlike breed, Flash Gits travel the galaxy, engaging in acts of outrageous piracy and wanton vandalism. They hire themselves out as mercenaries to orc warbands, basking in the envy of boys jealous of their flashy kit and prestigious Dakar. Despite their ostentation, Flash Gits give a war boss all the kill power he pays for. Completely lethal in gun battles, boarding actions and the like, a mob of Gits opening fire is nothing short of cataclysmic. A punishing hail of energy bolts and bullets fills the air, and the Flash Gits' victims coming apart amid a spray of blood and blossoms of flame before the Gits stomp the life out of anyone left standing. For 110 points, you get 4 Flash Gits and a captain who has the character type. You know the drill on this by now. They are subject to normal 3 Orky rules, Here We Go, Furious Charge and Mob rule, and come armed with a Git Finder, Boss Pole, stick bombs and snaz guns, which are 24-inch range, strength 5, AP D6, and assault 3. The profile of a flash git is weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength and toughness 4, 2 wounds, 3 initiative, 3 attacks, 7 leadership, and a 6-up save. A captain is weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 2, strength toughness 4, weapon skill wounds 2, initiative 3, attacks 3, leadership 7, and again a 6-up save. You can include up to 5 additional flash gits at 22 points a model, and any model can take an ammo run for 3 points, and the units can take a truck or a battle wagon as a dedicated transport. So the award for most Orky Orc goes to these guys. The models are inexplicably huge, bigger than a war boss, and as size matters in Orc society, I feel it's somewhat of a disconnect between these, which were a new model out for this release, and the rest of the army, but no matter. Rule of cool wins out, and these guys certainly win. As for their role, well, similar to looters, they want to lay down weight of shots. Having assault 3 strength 5 guns helps with this. Variable AP can make them prodigiously mighty in combat, or resoundingly ineffective. But what would Orc shooting be if not double gimped? Because only hitting 1/3 of the time wasn't enough of an impediment. They do come equipped with a git finder, buffing their ballistic skill to something more useful, but they're going to have to burn turns simply to get into range to start shooting, and once you're in range to unload your clips at the enemy, so too are you in range of their guns. These guys seem to send a mixed message. They make you think that they're heavy support, but instead I think they should be elites. There's little I would describe about them as heavy support, but that's personal preference. They're also reasonably expensive, so in an overpopulated heavy support, who would win their way into my list, flash gits or looters? Well, despite there being more guaranteed rate of fire, due to lower weapon strength and shorter range, and higher points costs, for me the looters take the Force Orc slot. Flash gits would definitely find their way into the elite slot for me, but there are other actual heavy support options available, which I can genuinely say is a shame, as I would love to have these models on the tabletop all the time. Well, that's me done for now. I appreciate your taking the time to listen to me ramble on. I hope you enjoyed the content and welcome your constructive feedback and discussion in the comments below. If you like this video, hit like. If you like my content, hit subscribe. Both help me in knowing what's working. I have been Steve, this has been the SDFnet 40k channel, and I will see you next time. The Emperor protects.